With Red Bull's RB20 known to have weaknesses over bumps and curbs, the mindset heading into the event had always been one of damage limitation. But things seemed even bleaker after Friday practice when both Verstappen and Sergio Perez seemed to be out of sorts with their cars. They were both unhappy with the handling. The tires were not firing up, and there was a real risk that they were going to get stuck in the pack and struggle to score a decent haul of points. Speaking after the first day of action, Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko said, "On Max's car, nothing is working. On both the soft and the hard tire, he doesn't get any grip, and he doesn't have any balance at all." Head scratching in Singapore was followed by a late-night engineering session at the factory and in the Red Bull simulator in Milton Keynes, with Sebastian Buemi to try to improve the setup and work out what was going wrong. As team boss Christian Horner said of Buemi's work, he was consuming plenty of Red Bull to keep him going. He played an important part, as does the whole team, in working hard with long days and long nights. Eventually, the team found its eureka moment and got to the bottom of what was wrong with its car. And it all revolved around its bruising encounter from 2023, when it had struggled massively with the track characteristics, opening the door for Ferrari and Carlos Sainz to triumph. The conclusion was that amid concerns about a repeat of problems over Singapore's curbs and bumps this year, Red Bull had taken a too conservative approach with its mechanical setup to cope with the track characteristics. However, in focusing so much on improving its ride in the belief that this was the best route to help Verstappen and Perez, it had ultimately sacrificed too much performance. There wasn't enough mechanical grip, and the result was that the tires were not getting up into the right operating window. For Saturday, Red Bull elected to sacrifice some of those better ride elements and focus more on pure performance, which suddenly helped the RB20 come alive. As Horner later reflected, "I think we wanted to avoid a repeat of last year, and perhaps we overcompensated. I think the way the team reacted, the effort that went into that reaction, we were able to give Max a much better car on Saturday, and obviously in the race we couldn't compete with Lando Norris, but we had the rest of the field covered." The Singapore result, a notable improvement on last year, has lifted hope that Red Bull's recent struggles are now a thing of the past, as it bids to help Verstappen hold on to his championship lead. The first half of this campaign has again between a tale of Red Bulls, with Verstappen claiming victories and Perez struggling to keep pace with his teammate. While the Mexican driver's form dipped at the Miami Grand Prix, with Perez failing to claim a podium finish in 13 races, Verstappen continued winning races until he too was hit by the RB20's balance issues. Fuming over the team's Hungarian Grand Prix updates before weeks later, lamenting that retaining the titles is not realistic, Verstappen has not won a Grand Prix in 8 weeks, with his lead in the driver's standings whittled down to 52 points. With Red Bull's issues, I've caught up with the Dutchman. Perez said in Singapore that some of the engineers after Monza came to me and did apologize, because now everyone is aware of the problems. Horner was asked if up until now Verstappen has been out driving the car's problems. He replied, "I think if we really delve deep into the data, we can actually see hints of it from Barcelona last year. And I think the problem is, Max's talent is so good that he's able to mask some of the issues, particularly on the way into corner entries. And that's where Checo has really struggled in comparison to his teammate." Red Bull's floor upgrade at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix is a first attempt to address the development issues that have hurt its 2024 Formula One car, with bigger fixes yet to come. Red Bull has revised the tunnel geometry on its RB20's latest floor, with the aim of improving pressure gradients along the floor for better underbody aerodynamic performance. Chief engineer Paul Monahan described it as a remarkably subtle change geometrically, influenced by the short turnaround between the back-to-back races at Zandvoort and Monza before traveling to Baku. But the hope is that it yields a tangible performance step before a further evolution is potentially ready for next week's Singapore GP. Monahan said the lessons are kind of ongoing and the immediate reaction tends to be seen in the later races, so it's a testament to everybody that we got it here. A lot of hard work, and that hard work will continue. Singapore's only a week away, so that will be potentially another evolution for us. The scale of the update kind of determines the phase lag in there. If we've managed to do it for this race, it's not the biggest one we'll ever undertake in terms of geometry change. It's subtle. Could the effect be good? Yes, and I think the proof of the pudding will be on Sunday afternoon. Red Bull could equip both cars with a new floor in Baku, as it has the necessary number of parts, but Monahan would not confirm whether that is the case. This suggests there could be more back-to-back tests or split specifications for Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, as was seen at different times across the last two events. The key thing is that Red Bull has reacted so quickly to its defeat to McLaren in the races in the Netherlands and Italy, and its particularly worrying form at the latter, where it was only fourth fastest and lost ground in both championships to McLaren. Grander developments will likely have to wait until at least the United States GP in late October, which follows an unusual month-long gap in the schedule after next weekend's race in Singapore. That could be an opportunity for Red Bull to introduce a bigger floor upgrade, but also complementary parts, and maybe even a new front wing that seeks to replicate the progress in aeroelasticity that McLaren and Mercedes have found this season. Monahan said that will be defined by how Red Bull performs in Baku and Singapore, where it can allocate development and financial resources, and whether it is willing to risk a major package for Austin, as that's a sprint weekend with only one practice session. Monahan said of the upcoming gap, which is the same length as F1's summer break, but without a mandated shutdown, so teams can work throughout it. It gives us the freedom to potentially do more. That left Verstappen, who has been very critical of the car's behavior and Red Bull's trajectory, worried about the threat from Lando Norris in the Drivers' Championship, and has prompted new team orders at McLaren because it believes Norris's title shot is realistic. As Mercedes discovered, introducing a more efficient floor can introduce instabilities that make the car slower overall. What is shocking is that the team that seemed to have perfect tunnel correlations could flail when the tracks got smoother and the ride heights lower. RB are now as confused as everyone else was 2 years ago, something that most of us thought almost impossible. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, I either hope Max to win the title by country mile or Lando to win it. I don't want the points Lando Norris has thrown away to be the deciding factor in any championship bid. I'm liking Lando's narrative regards wanting to win it himself, not be handed it. Yesterday, you mentioned Rosberg winning first race and title in same year, which I always thought was underserved. Had no respect for his, because after that, considering Villeneuve killed and Pironi suffered a career-ending crash, people say times are different, but morals don't change. Jackie was glad he didn't win title after Jochen Rindt had been killed, as he didn't feel it would have been right without him able to defend the run-in, and that was 1970. I don't think Lando's earned the support this year, so it's refreshing to hear his offered opinion.